Well, let's talk more on this story. We're joined now by researcher and gender activist Lisa Vetten, as well as Phinah, Kodisang, Chief Executive Officer for Soul City Institute. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Provisionally withdrawn charges, prison escapes, failed, what you call extraditions. All this, is it correct for people to start thinking the state is really not clear on what they are doing and generally failing victims of crime in this country? Lisa?
That is very much the perception, and I think what is very concerning, I've recently been looking at the data for the National Prosecuting Authority on rape prosecutions, and one of the things that's showing is that the number of cases being put down for trial as a percentage of the number of rapes being reported has declined over the last decade. So when you look at that, when you look at cases like the Gardee case doesn't look exceptional. It starts to look like what is a norm and why people are getting so discouraged. I mean, the other example we can think about is, of course, the Krugersdorp rapes that occurred on the mine dump last year. Charges were withdrawn in November. We heard there were going to be more arrests. The case hadn't been abandoned. And here we are in April, having heard nothing further. And with the information regulator having found last week that the police contravened the Poppy Act by endangering those women by putting out their names and physical addresses and circulating that on WhatsApp. So it's deeply worrying.
Yeah. Phinah, political parties have said that there's a clear lack of coherence in how our justice system is working and cooperating together. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. It shows lack of competence in the work that they are doing. And I think even how they handled the crime scene, how they handled the whole case, proves that, our justice system is still failing. How many cases have they failed, and how many cases are they going to continue to fail before we really, get justice for victims of gender-based violence, especially this month where we are looking at Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This is the month where we heighten awareness around sexual assault and around the laws that govern sexual assault. But if the laws are failing, if we are failing to implement the laws, then we are saying to victims, there's no hope. Survivors cannot, be hopeful that they will get justice in this country.
Yeah, it's the Krugersdorp matter, it's the Hillary Gardee matter. What do you think, Phinah, is really at the heart of this unpreparedness, right, for the state when they're going into these cases? Are they going in because of the pressure that they need to be seen to be doing something, and therefore they rush these processes and end up having egg on their face? Is there political motivation maybe to some of these charges that are being brought forward, only to find that they actually cannot be backed up?
In fact, I thought this was going to be one of the cases where they proved their competence because of the political connection that the Gardee family has, So I thought, at least with this one, they'll definitely do something right because all eyes are on them. But if they fail even with high-profile cases like this, it tells you that the system is really rot. There's something that is fundamentally wrong within the justice system. And I'm wondering also, Thabo, when do they know that the witnesses are not going to come forward? They cannot present today, the day of court, to say witnesses are not coming forward. When did they know? It shows you that even in their preparedness, they were not following through. But also it shows lack of accountability. And if there's one thing that our president always speaks about when addressing gender-based violence is accountability. But we see generally a lack of accountability across the board. You look at the Esther case, you look at all the cases, that we are profiling in this month. It just shows lack of accountability, incompetence, lack of commitment, and lack of will to do the work, the hard work, to give women of South Africa justice.
Yeah. Lisa, the sudden disappearance of key witnesses, is that a cause for concern, and what does it indicate?
It is a cause for concern. I mean, I would only be speculating. I don't know what's happened, but it is extremely worrying. It suggests either that people were intimidated and got at, and were told not to testify, and so they disappeared. Another possibility one can't rule it out, although it seems fairly probable, is that perhaps they were untruthful and now they don't want to be caught out in testifying. But, it's also possible that if they haven't been threatened, that they've been paid money in order not to testify. So there's a whole range of different complexities that could have gone on here. And, given who the accused were, this is the kind of scenario that should have been looked at quite carefully as a possibility that may have happened. And perhaps, again, this is an argument possibly for witness protection having been needed.
Yeah, wanted to come to that. I mean, it could possibly be another situation where a whistleblower felt, based on our track record, that I'm not safe here, and maybe the people that I'm dealing with here could possibly actually come back and get to me because I'm not going to be protected by the state. We lost Lisa there. Phinah?
Yeah, true. And if the system is slow, Thabo, witness starts withdrawing, even victim. When we take time to address the matter, sorry, Lisa, when we take time to address the matter,
that's okay.
If the system is slow, people will tend to start feeling intimidated. And we know in our country, bribery, corruption, intimidation become the order of the day. So honestly, we failed in this case. We failed in many cases. The justice system failed to do what it needs to do, especially because there's evidence. So you cannot come and say, we do have a case against them, but you failed to present that case and to even do it timeously.
Yeah. Lisa, I was saying, if we demonstrated as the state the ability to protect whistleblowers, for example, if the life of Babita Deokaran, the life of many others, including those who have run away from the country, others who are being tortured right now, who are living in poverty because they were whistleblowers. If we had done better there, maybe we wouldn't have such a situation where witnesses just literally go AWOL.
Yes, and I think people see far too many examples of somebody who isn't kept safe. The most high-profile example was Babita Deokaran, who was murdered. There has still been no trial in her matter. So I think people look at that, weigh up their options, wonder what's going to happen. You see these cases on the front pages of the headlines of a whistleblower who's lost their job. Nothing has ever happened. And people may weigh that up and think, at the end of the day, I would rather be careful. And provinces like Mpumalanga have a very dangerous reputation. So, in some provinces, I think, you've heard lots of suggestions that these have been politically motivated killings, accusations of vigilantism. And I think, especially if we look at some of the accusations that have been made around Mpumalanga in relation to coal. So people may well feel, I look at this, I'm not going ahead with that. I have a family, I have children, there are others I need to worry about. And they may weigh that up and decide, actually, I'd rather not do this. So it is really concerning because I spoke earlier about having seen this decline in prosecutions. The fact is, about 10 years ago, we were doing so much better than we are now. So we can't take out what's happening to the weakening of the state that's gone on in the last decade, that has seen, we saw those terrible backlogs in the forensic laboratory, for example.
Yeah.
To give you another example, one of the reasons why court cases in rape matters have been so delayed is because nobody has signed off on contracts to repair microphones. Foolish little things like that are holding up and damaging the credibility of the criminal justice system.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to come to next. In terms of what you're saying, the decline in prosecution, how much of that could you possibly link to cases that are withdrawn, not because the perpetrators are innocent, but because of technicalities?
There would be quite a few of those. I think, some things we also may need to take into account is the fact that a great many prosecutor posts were frozen due to budgetary problems for a while. So one of the things that it seems to have done, when you look at some of the research that's been done in this area, is that it's encouraged prosecutors to select their strongest cases, the cases that they think are most likely to result in a conviction, and that will also not take a lot of time because they have this backlog of cases to get through. So, it's going back to this point of how administrative things like contracts, like functional microphones, like meeting your performance targets are actually getting in the way of justice, like not having enough of a budget. And it becomes a self-reinforcing problem, because we sit now with a problem where the state, due to corruption, our fiscus is shrinking. We continue to freeze and hold posts. So it will just simply perpetuate itself. So we can say as much as we like about gender-based violence, we can pass wonderful laws, but if we don't have the budgets in order to be able to employ the people and to keep them in the state to do a good job, then all that fine lawmaking and the national strategic plans actually become, they're not worth the paper that they're written on. If you don't have those underpinnings of a functional state that is well capacitated and well resourced.
Yeah. Phinah, I see you nodding your head. Do you think this certainly has dealt a blow and dented the confidence of South Africans in the justice system's ability to deal with gender-based violence?
Most definitely. If we keep failing, we are saying to more and more victims and survivors, we are going to fail you. So who would want to put themselves through a system that will ultimately re-victimize them, that will fail them, that will re-traumatize them? So we are seeing a big failure and people withdrawing, even coming forward to report. And you see in the numbers the way they fluctuate. 1 minute we're saying there's an increase, another minute we're saying there's a decrease. Not that the violations have gone down, but the reporting keeps going down, because more and more survivors don't want to put themselves through this trauma that the system is putting them through.
I appreciate you both. Thank you very much for coming on, Lisa Vetten, as well as Phinah Kodisang there with us, helping us in that conversation. In Focus continues shortly with what's making news tonight.